Hey, friends. Well, I had another one of those mornings where I sitting in meditation and unconsciously, or sort of like without my being aware of what's happening, these fantasies are starting to play. And then I catch one. And then I have an insight that grows out of it. And this time, it was like, so the insight is the thing that I really felt. That really felt. I'll explain it in a minute. But so what's happening in my mind is I'm running, like as I've probably described on a number of posts. My mind runs. It's like it plays a tape. It plays a movie of fantasies, imaginary worlds, where my amazingness is on display and being affirmed by whoever. Sometimes it's just random nameless humanity, and other times it's specific people. I hope I'm not the only person who does this, but I do this, and it's hilarious. Once I kind of get once I sort of actually recognize it, it's hilarious. But before that, it's just kind of what my mind does. And it's sometimes a little scary to jump in and realize, oh wow, look at that. Like this time I was playing tennis. So in my mind, imagine this. I'm sitting in meditation, but what's happening in my mind is I'm playing tennis somewhere so well that a bunch of people think that I'm amazing. I haven't played tennis in years. My tennis is not integral to my identity in the world in almost any way. Now, there's a time when that wasn't true, when I was younger, and I would have essentially told you my identity. If I could have had the vocabulary and the awareness to tell you this, my identity completely revolved around the game of tennis. But it's been years. So I see this happening in my mind, and I'm like, whoa. And the funny thing is, so this morning I get on a call with a friend and student, and she also had a tennis revelation today. So clearly tennis is in the air. Maybe it's the weather's getting warmer. I don't know. But so I catch this happening, and I'm like, whoa, what is happening? What's going on? Like, what am I doing here? And it's the usual thing. It's the usual kind of like the ego striving to be affirmed. I'm literally playing a tape of affirmation, but a kind of fantastical affirmation. It's not me on the deepest level affirming my core value. It's my mind seeking to be affirmed out of a sense of lack. That's why the fantasies keep playing. If I didn't have that, I'm convinced there would be no need to play that tape over and over in whatever form it comes. So there's always a void being filled. There's a void that's attempting that my mind is attempting to fill, and of course, as we all know, it never successfully fills that void. That's not how it works. But that doesn't stop the mind from trying relentlessly to do so. So anyway, I've told you enough about that. But I caught that happening, and so then there was a moment where I realized And maybe it had to do with the fact that this fantasy was kind of so clearly from a different time in my life. It was like, it doesn't even make sense. What do I even think? Like, what do I, how, what would this, let's say this thing actually happened in my life. What would it mean? Would I truly derive a sense of affirmation or satisfaction from this? Or, and precisely because of that, I think, because it was so much a product of the past, I was reminded of of what Sadhguru said about all thought is recycled material, which is a big one if you really let that in, that all thought is recycled material. We literally, we never have an original thought. All thought is consciousness using matter, but matter is memory. Matter is concretized. Matter is the past. Thought is matter. Thought is subtle matter. It's matter from the past. It can only ever be that. And so what that did for me was like, I saw, it was almost like the kind of like the identification with the fantasy, where I'm like doing this, amazing tennis serve or whatever, peeled off, and all of a sudden I was looking at an oil drum full of my thoughts, but it wasn't me anymore. It was like I could see, it was like a, I could see that there was some other container, not my essence, but some other container that just has stuff kicking around in it. It has thoughts kicking around in it. And every once in a while, my mind grabs them and tries to build something, or tries to put on a show, or, tries to create a result. But the disidentification from it was key. It was kind of it was a relief. It was like this, oh, I am not my pathologies. Phew. That's good to feel. Doesn't that feel good? To know that whatever aspect of me feels the need to do this mentally, or God forbid, in the world, that we would like actually pursue affirmation in this way, to know that that's not truly who we are, that we actually, that our identity is actually fully separate from that. And I don't really know, I can't really explain why that sensation, that recognition of having a being beyond the fantasy or beyond the thoughts, why that came through so powerfully in this particular instance. It may have had nothing to do with the instance. It may have been somewhat, provoked by the fact that the fantasy itself was so clearly like, it was like, what are you serving me yesterday's news here, mind? What are you trying to act like this is somehow relevant? Like, get with it, get hip, mind, get up to date. You're like 20 years late on this fantasy, more than that. Sometimes I forget how old I am. But for whatever reason, I watched myself like step out of the oil drum of things and thoughts and go and be able to observe it, and it was like, and all of a sudden it's hilarious, right? Once we can get to that place where what our mind does and what our particular fantasies are, once we can see that those are that they're their own thing, it's almost like having a pet or having a perpetual motion machine that you don't even need to give it any fuel. It just keeps doing the same trick. It's like once we see that, there's just something that's deeply relaxing about that. We can let go, I think, to a certain degree of investment in that, because it's really interesting. I'm not like I said, you ask me point blank, or you catch me in a moment of awareness and ask me whether that fantasy would mean anything, and it's like, so the notion is so ridiculous to me. But that didn't stop me from buying into it internally for at least long enough for it to play a couple times in my head, like for at least a few moments there while it played, and then I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And yeah, so I think what's coming out of this for me is just a real appreciation for the truth that all thought is recycled material. If that, once that goes in and we realize how much that's the case, it's like we become free from the mind. The mind does not have the power to compel me anymore, because I know it's not me. I know it's not the real me. And I'm not saying I'm there yet. I'm just saying I can see how it works. I can see the mechanism of how that works. If we can get de-identified from the mind kind of fully, so that, because what happens when we're in the process of a meditative practice, of a spiritual practice, of transcendence, transcendence is essentially that process of moving beyond the mind. The word Buddha, as Sadhguru explained in some video that I can't remember, it means beyond the minds. Bud, it means buddhi, it means mind, and da means, he says something in Sanskrit, it's like dada, and it means beyond. So Buddha just means beyond the mind. The spiritual process is all about getting beyond the mind, transcending the mind, realizing we're not the mind. And as we're in that process, we get free of certain things, but then stuff hooks us, right? I mean, I'm sure we've all had that experience. We either through meditation or through just the practice of life, we come to a place where we feel genuinely free of certain restrictions that have happened that we know we've been caught by in the past. But then something happens. We have something happen, we have a certain kind of day, we have a certain experience, whatever, and something hooks us again. And now we're for a period of time, we're re-identified with the mind. Until we go, hey, wait a minute, what's this? I thought, I remember, this isn't really me. It's just my oil drum of recycled material that I carry everywhere I go. And I think so. Anytime that there's a moment, like a flash, like I had today, of really kind of clearly and powerfully experiencing that separation and knowing there's an identity way beyond. It's so vastly. I mean, as soon as I connect with it, as soon as I connect with the nature of awareness as the container of literally everything, including the mind, then the mind becomes a smaller container. If I'm identified with the mind, it's the largest container. Then it's the fishbowl in which I'm swimming. I can't. There's no out of the fishbowl if I'm in the mind. But so what that moment when it's like you move and you pass through the wall and you go, whoa, wait, it's just a fishbowl. It's not me. I was never the fishbowl. I don't know why a fish metaphor is coming up. It's not even really that good of a metaphor because the fish is in the bowl. But you know what I mean. We create a step beyond what we had formerly perceived as being, potentially a boundary or potentially even just all of reality. And then we realize, oh no, that's just a tiny little subset of reality. It's not reality at all. Those are good moments. Those are nice moments to remind us of what's real, what's really real. So anyway, I've told you more than enough for one day about my inner workings. And now you know that I'm still, on some level, attached to being perceived as being an amazing tennis player. So hopefully you'll all get to see that one day. Thanks for watching. Love you. Appreciate you. Yes, it's amazing to be in conversation with all of you and to feel received. So have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.